Working in customer support is never easy. Working in tech support? I can't even imagine. Welcome to this episode of Tales from Tech Support. Our first tale is from Professor Dash. I've become the end user. I filled out my idiot form and received immediate approval for end user status. I work for a major US ski resort. We have many retail shops that are under our purview, and they all have Pandora mood players on premise. I received a call that one of them wasn't working. I logged into its UI page and was met with a big red message stating there was a critical error and to call support. I lamented my fate and took a walk to the other side of the resort to check on the device. I found the closet the device was located in, unplugged it, sat down at the nearest manager's desk with a phone and called the support number, armed with nothing but a singular brain cell and a serial number on the device. The departments here all manage their own Pandora accounts. IT has no involvement in actually managing the accounts, we just set up the devices. The service tech asked me for our account number and I didn't have it. He asked me for the company name that it was tied to, and I wasn't sure what company name it was actually registered under. Some departments are under Ski Corp, some departments are under Ski Holdings. I assume there's a good reason, but I don't really know why. He asked me for the address, and I wasn't sure what particular address this retail shop was under, as some use one address, others use another. I was absolutely useless and unhelpful to this poor tech. Finally, he asked me what the serial number was, and then spent 5 minutes tracking down all of the info I was ignorant of to pull up the device. He then asked me to unplug the device. Score 1 for me, I'm way ahead of him there, and I let him know it already was. He then asked me to plug the device back in. Before I could get back to the desk and ask him, okay, now what? I was being hit by the opening riff of Thunderstruck by AC/DC. I stopped, put my hands on the desk, and contemplated how hard I would need to bang my head into this to forget this ever happened. I apologized to the tech for wasting his time and not trying that sooner, and he quickly yet professionally rattled off the closing script he probably has burned into his mind. I wish I could offer an excuse, that I hadn't had enough caffeine, that it had been a long day, that I was unfamiliar with the tech or something. But in truth, I just completely turned my brain off as soon as I saw that red banner saying to call customer support. All critical thinking had ceased. My knowledge of the previous 8 years of working in this field fled me. I was reduced to the most primal and helpless state. The wizardry of the magic music box turned me into not a computer person. I know a few of my coworkers browse this subreddit. If you read this, do me a favor and pretend you never saw it. It's crazy that the fix to this problem was as simple as just unplugging and plugging back in the device, especially considering it gave the message to call customer support to literally waste somebody's time to tell somebody to do that instead of just making the message, please unplug and replug device. Our next tale is by Bunsen H. Years and years ago, I was the scientific support manager for a small company that made scientific modeling software. The title was illusory. I was responsible for all the tech support and tech writing. It was a nightmare. Most of the problems were due to the company's owner, president, grand poobah, but a few of the customers were special too. Most of the customers were from academia, had many advanced degrees, and some were inclined to be snotty to us mere minions on account of their supposed academic superiority. As it happens, I and most of my colleagues had PhDs too, as well as considerable expertise in, the software we produced. One customer was a PhD, we'll call him PHUD. Got to be annoying by asking questions about things that were really basic and easy to find in the manuals. And if I must say so myself as the guy responsible for keeping those manuals up to date, they were pretty good. Before I joined the company, the manuals were comprehensive and well written. There was a complete book of tutorials leading the user through steps towards doing various kinds of calculations. I improved their clarity and went all out on their indexes, making sure that one could find things by using relevant synonyms or phrases. One or two times, when PHUD wrote me asking, "How do I do thing with the software?" I replied back with a brief description and noted that you can find all of the details by looking in the index under thing. Read that for a minute, yeah? Came the day when PHUD wrote to me at my personal email address at the company to ask how he could get the software to do X. I preferred that people addressed such questions to the company's support address, which was forwarded to my own, against the possibility that I might someday have a chance to take a vacation, or for whatever reason, might not be on hand to deal with support matters, and one of my colleagues would have to cover for me. But that wasn't a major concern at that point. I got the question. Unfortunately, what PHUD wanted to do was simply not feasible for our category of model, at a very fundamental level. He wanted to measure a thing that was beyond the scope of that field. We couldn't do it. None of our competitors could do it. No model of that type would ever be able to do it. I wrote back to him and explained the nature of the problem, in straightforward terms, because the guy seemed to be a bit dense. I kept the writing level considerably below PhD standards. PHUD apparently didn't like what I told him. So then he wrote the company's support address asking the exact same question, which was, of course, relayed directly to me. So I wrote back to him, as I have told you before, dropping the level down to about a BSc level. PHUD still didn't like that answer, so he wrote the mailing list that our company maintained for our customers to discuss matters, asking the same question a third time. As it happens, my responsibilities also included managing that mailing list, so I got to respond on that list. As I told you before when you wrote me directly, and again when you wrote me via the support address, this is fundamentally impossible because... A few months later, when we were planning changes to the software's drop-down menus for an upcoming new version, we were trying to figure out how to keep things straightforward for basic users while still allowing access to all of the bells and whistles for those who needed them. One possibility that we discussed was a menu setting, a toggle box for Show Advanced Options. One of my colleagues half-jokingly suggested that there should be 3 settings: Regular, Advanced, and PHUD. That last one would get rid of all the menu options and replace them with a single command: Calculate. I think the thing that gets me here is the fact that you had to reiterate not just once, not twice, but 3 times the exact same thing to this guy to get it to stick. And even then, I really do have to question if it stuck or if he started asking other people outside of this circle. And our final tale is from Cynical Altruist. A while back, I worked a summer for my college professor who also owned a cybersecurity company. It was a good gig. I got experience, and he got cheap seasonal labor to answer phones and crunch tickets. Win-win. One of my jobs was processing hardware. He was pulling in tons of hardware for contracts or expansion or other stuff. I would get a ticket, match ticket to hardware, take hardware from point to point, and install and uninstall it. From there, admins used iDRACs to set up or whatever the Cisco, HP, Supermicro alphabet soup is. It was a fairly smooth system. One day I start my tickets with a load of R710s. These things were both dirty and pretty beat up. Most worked, but the top one had an error and wouldn't respond on iDRAC. I pull it, and the motherboard is fried, completely cooked. I submit my ticket and move on. It's just another server to me, after all. About 3 hours later, I get a visit from the CEO, Professor himself. He asks some very particular questions about the R710 that had died, and when he double checks my analysis, he agrees it's dead and not worth replacing. He pulls the drives and does the backups himself, then submits the decommissioning ticket for Monday. Monday rolls around and I walk in to find the office full of business professional dressed people I haven't seen before. These people are all business partners and former employees, and there's even some contract holders in the mix. Most of the employees are there pre-COVID, and I'm a bit concerned I missed the email or memo or something. Normally, a server decommissioning takes a few minutes and there's no fuss or fanfare. Not today. As I wheeled my cart with the dead R710 out into the hallway, the motherfucker plays a bagpipe rendition of Amazing Grace over the PA system, and all these business people line the halls looking both sad and like they're holding in laughter. Before I load the server onto my desk, this wonderfully strange CEO steps up and goes into a full-on eulogy. Gone before its EOL date. A truly kind and gentle processor, and both empathetic and extremely expandable, were the highlights I remember, since there I was with a dead server and 20 people all standing around me in a room slightly bigger than my dorm. What I didn't know was that this was the origin. This was the first server his company bought, the first one to serve clients, the one the entire company ran on for years. Its name was Winslow, and it had gone with the CEO to demonstrate his services and win his first multi-million-dollar contract. After this, we were treated to a free-to-us company sushi lunch, and then I got a special order to mount the server on the wall instead of throwing it away. As far as I know, it's still there. The fact that that professor showed respect to that server on the level like a lot of people, a lot of businesses will want to frame their very first ever made dollar, it's pretty unique and cool, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, that's enough tales for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Tales from Tech Support. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons, have a great day and stay safe out there.